Hi guys, Miss Chronister here. Hopefully you are done reading part 1 of To Kill a Mockingbird. I hope you're enjoying it. I know that was a lot of reading, chapters 4 through 11 for the second half, but the story's starting to get going now, so hopefully you're liking it as much as I do. I really love this book, and we're starting to really get into it. So let's talk about a few things. First, let's talk about Boo. One of your assignments was to look at the textual evidence and things that Boo's actually doing. Remember I told you last time to be careful that you are forming your opinion on Boo based on things he actually does, not just the town gossip or the kids' fantastical stories about him. So we see a few actual things that he does. He's putting these little trinkets in the tree for the kids. He's kind of like laughing as Scout, as the kids come up to the house and stuff like that, but even though they don't see him, they can hear some laughter. He sewed up Jem's pants and folded them over the fence. He put a blanket around Scout at the fire. So he's doing these kind things. If we look at this evidence, these facts, they don't quite line up with somebody who eats raw squirrels or who stabs people with scissors. So we're learning a lesson here. The author's kind of using Boo to establish a theme in this story that we shouldn't judge other people before we know them or before we have experiences with them, real person-to-person experiences, so to speak, rather than judge people on gossip and hearsay. So keep that in mind. I'm willing to bet that that theme might be developed further as we continue to read in the story. Another thing, though, that is getting going, Boo kind of falls to the wayside for a little bit here, and we start talking about the trial. Atticus is defending Tom Robinson. Tom Robinson is a black man, and remember, the blacks don't have any rights. It's not current day situations. They're treated very poorly. I'm sure you've seen the N-word in here quite often, and one of the biggest things is the kids keep catching fire from their peers, from their family even from adults like Mrs. DuBose, that they're criticizing Atticus for defending Tom Robinson, calling him a nigger lover. So Scout she fought Walter Cunningham, remember, at school. Atticus finds out about it. Atticus kind of tries to explain the situation to Scout, and here again we get a piece of the character and the wonderful man that Atticus is. He says that he couldn't refuse to defend Tom Robinson and hold his head up in front of his children. He knows it's the right thing to do, and even though he knows that he's licked before he started, he said, simply because we're licked 100 years before we started is no reason not for us to try to win. He knows that he's probably not going to win this case. He's talking to his brother about it. As Scout's listening in on the conversation, he knows that this case with Tom Robinson is a black man talking against a white man, and it's not looking good, but he's hoping to do his best and defend Tom Robinson because it's the right thing to do. So he kind of talks to his kids and he says, you know, this is going to be a tough summer, but I want you guys to hold your heads up high. I don't want you to fight. And Scout, I think we see some of the first evidence of her growing up. Remember, this is her coming of age story. And she has this encounter with her cousin at Christmas, and she has the encounter with Cecil Jacobs at school, and she, at least with Cecil, was able to hold back like Atticus had told her and not fight when Cecil called her a coward and was making fun of her dad. At Christmas, when her cousin was making fun of her dad and saying he was going to be the ruin of the family, she still kind of busted him up a little bit. And quite frankly, I can't blame her. But she didn't want Atticus to know why. She didn't want Atticus to know the real reason why, because she didn't want to let Atticus down. So here, Scout is trying to do the right thing. Even though you can probably make a text-to-self connection sometime when you've been like super frustrated and you just like broke and, you know, kind of gave it to a cousin like Scout did. She really beat him up. he deserved it, but Atticus, of course, wants her to hold back. So anyway, the kids are catching a lot of crap because of what their dad is doing, but Atticus is trying to do the right thing. So, Mrs. DeBose is another person I want to talk about. Scout and Jim have never liked her, right? And Jim is usually the one that's able to keep his cool, but when Mrs. DeBose was making fun of Atticus, or criticizing Atticus, I guess I should say, he finally snapped, kind of like Scout did on her cousin, and ruined all her flowers, right? And then consequently, he has to go read to her. And we find out that as he's reading to her, he's actually helping her kick her addiction to morphine. She knows she's going to die, but she wants to kick this addiction. She wants to be able to die free from her addiction to morphine, and Jim's reading to her kind of helps her wean herself off of the morphine. This is a parallel, Atticus kind of brings up how it's a parallel to what they're going to go through, to what he's going to go through with the trial. She knows she's going to die, so it's like, why would you want to kick an addiction if you're going to die anyway? But he makes the parallel that just because you know you're licked before you start, just because you know it's not going to end the way you want it to, doesn't mean to not try. So there's another life lesson we can learn in there. Atticus knows that he's not going to win this trial, or it's not going to turn out the way he wants it to. Mrs. DeBose knows she's going to die, but they still try. They still put in the effort. So something we can all take away from this story, again, another life lesson from the mouth of Atticus again, right? Also, there's just so much to talk about, so I'm kind of jumping around here, but we had Atticus shooting the dog, right? Jem and Scout think their dad doesn't have anything cool about him. He's just like this 50-year-old who doesn't do anything cool. But then when this rabid dog comes into town, Atticus is the one that shoots the dog. He shoots him dead, saves the town. A dog with rabies, very contagious. If you catch rabies, you die. One crazy fact about me is I've actually been vaccinated for rabies. That's a little bit of a side note, but it's not a normal vaccination you get. But anyway, so Atticus is the one who saves the town, kind of. He's the one who shoots the dog to keep the dog from hurting anybody, when really it kind of should be the sheriff, Sheriff Tate, who is the one protecting the town from this rabid dog. So think about that. Think about how Atticus is the one who steps up and does what's right, rather than the sheriff being the one to step up and do something right. This might foreshadow something later in the story. And this dog is also kind of a symbol of just this source of like racism or badness, or this ugliness that comes into town and needs to be taken care of before it spreads. So the dog's kind of a symbol here. This whole thing is foreshadowing the trial, and how Atticus has to step up when other people maybe should also. So keep this in mind. Authors don't put anything in their novels unless it's important. So that little scene might just seem like a silly little scene. It's actually pretty significant, and I think you'll find it in one of your assignments as well. Finally, I want to talk about how Atticus said it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. We've got to talk about that, right? Because it's the title of the novel. So he says it's a sin to kill a mockingbird because mockingbirds do nothing but make beautiful music for us. So why kill something when it only does good, right? That would just be hateful and horrible. And Scout goes on and she talks to Miss Maudie about it, and she says Atticus is right. Mockingbirds don't, I kept wanting to say mockingjay. Mockingbirds, they don't nest in the corn cribs, they don't ruin any flowers or do anything bad. All they do is make beautiful music for us. Think about that. Hold that little nugget in your head. See how it develops as you continue to read through the story. Think about who might be the mockingbird. Think about what that mockingbird might symbolize, and just hold on to that. So good luck with your assignments. As always, I'm here to help you. So if you are struggling, shoot me an email, come by and see me, give me a call during office hours, whatever you need. and we will make sure you are understanding everything you need to do, and we'll continue on to part 2 next time. All right, take care, guys.